Located in Syracuse, New York, this Catholic convent would be constructed in 1896. The Sisters of St. Francis had originally come to upstate New York about 4 decades prior and had established the first public hospital in the city, St. Joseph's. The founding director of St. Joseph's was Sister Marianne Cope, and though she moved on before this convent was built, her remains would be reinterred here in 2005 when she was declared a saint by the Catholic Church. Over the years, the convent had expanded to take almost the entire city block up, with additions that included a nursing home, daycare center, convent, and women's junior college. But by 2013, the property had grown too big for its dwindling population, and the decision to shutter St. Anthony's Convent was made. Though plans for redevelopment existed, the buildings would sit abandoned for over a decade until a fire would damage them to the point where they were ordered demolished.
If you know Ruin Road, you know we value our privacy. In our personal life, it's not always easy to maintain. Whether we know it or not, sites will mine our data like full name, email, health records, and more, which they will sell to scammers, spammers, and anyone else who wants to snoop. That's why we started using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows us which data brokers are selling our personal information and automatically submits opt-out requests on our behalf. This not only reduces the amount of spam you'll get, but protects against hackers who can use this information to gain access to our social media, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. Aura also provides a ton of other features bundled into one easy-to-use app at an affordable price. You get antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls, identity theft insurance, and more without needing to bother with different apps. We all have one or more of these tools already, but not having Aura is like locking the front door and leaving the back door wide open. And if you're a regular viewer, you'll know how often that happens. Like 24-hour security, motion sensors, and guard dogs, Aura is always on, doing the hard work of keeping my info safe so I can focus on other tasks with peace of mind. Relaxing. Ruin Road values our privacy, and we also value yours. Go to aura.com/ruinroad to start a free 2-week trial, also linked below in the description.
Just 5 years after the Sisters of St. Francis was founded in Philadelphia, 8 of their members would arrive to Syracuse, New York to teach at the schools up here for the numerous German and Irish immigrants who had come to the area to work in the canals, railroads, and salt mines. In addition to teaching, the sisters began to act as in-home nurses for the first 6 years until they opened St. Elizabeth's Hospital in nearby West Utica. 3 years later, the sisters would open St. Joseph's Hospital in Syracuse, with Sister Marianne Cope as the hospital administrator. St. Joseph's and St. Elizabeth's Hospital were some of the first public hospitals to open in the entire country that would serve anyone, regardless of race or faith. During this time, Cope would also be instrumental in moving Geneva Medical College to Syracuse by agreeing to allow their students to work in her hospital, though she stipulated that her patients had the right to refuse to be treated by the students if they wished, something which was unheard of at the time.
Here we go. This is a little chapel. Look at that, with that little light they have coming down. Yeah, it even had a nice inscription.
In 1877, Marianne would become the Mother Superior General of St. Francis, which she served until 1883, when she received a pleading message from King Kalakaua of Hawaii for help in dealing with a leprosy epidemic. As this was some 60 years before the first antibiotics would be used as an effective treatment for the disease, over 50 other congregations had turned down the king's request, as the highly contagious disease almost ensured those who helped the infected would also catch it. But Marianne enthusiastically accepted, and along with 6 other sisters arrived to the island of Oahu. 1 year later, she would open the first general hospital on Maui and would take charge of the Oahu hospital after she told the government the current director was mismanaging it. And if she was not put in charge, the sisters would return to Syracuse. Over the next 10 years, Mother Marianne Cope would establish a number of healthcare facilities for Hawaiian residents before retiring in 1895. Throughout this entire time, she never contracted leprosy and would pass away peacefully in 1918.
See all the little training bullets? These were for the little pistols. And then they had the rifle ones too.
In 2005, her remains would be brought back to the Mother House here when the Catholic Church would declare her a saint.
20 years ago, Kate Mahoney was 14 years old, dying of cancer at Crouse Hospital.
All of the stats and the doctors believed that I would not survive. There would be no medical reason for me to survive.
Stage 4 ovarian cancer turned into an all-out organ shutdown. But then, something happened. The Sisters of St. Francis came to Kate's bedside and, along with family and friends, started praying to Mother Marianne Cope. In a matter of days, Kate made a stunning recovery.
My discharge report said there is no medical reason for her to be alive.
This is the first of 2 miracles the Catholic Church attributes to Mother Marianne Cope. The Vatican declared her a saint in December. She'll be canonized later this year, making her Syracuse's first saint.
Oh, they had a fire. You can smell it. It's not too old.
It smells like bacon.
Oh, yeah, that is.
It looks like the wardrobe from Beauty and the Beast.
I don't know. I think this was some sort of a weight machine thing. They had, yeah, look at multiple fires, or it just spread.
The convent, meanwhile, had continued to expand as well, with the first private female Catholic day school opening here in 1914. In 1925, what would eventually become the Maria Regina Women's Junior College would also open on site. Girls from across the country, as well as overseas, came to attend the 2-year school that provided typical liberal arts and science courses, along with field training for professions such as nursing and other healthcare degrees. The college also provided specialized clinics for local children with reading or speaking disabilities.
Oh, look at those windows, and oh yeah, they killed these guys up. Just some old grandma with a submachine gun. And then this was a false, because she had a flip phone. They lit this room up. A ton of shells here. Well, he's an innocent, or he's a surrenderer. Big old pipe organ.
The current chapel would begin construction in 1949 and was formally dedicated 2 years later, while Maria Regina would also get a new expansion in 1959.
Oh, they're not statues. They're like, floating Jesus. And then just mosaic. Those are nuns. Convent, obviously. And then who's that over there? That's a monk. 2 monks, I guess. Why would they do such a small thing?
I'm tiny and I don't even fit.
Yes, it is. It's a neat shot.
The final expansion of the campus came in 1970, with the Franciscan Center opening as a religious institution. In 1988, due to declining enrollment, Maria Regina College would close. They were able to transfer all students to other nearby colleges to finish their degrees, with the exception of the therapy assistant program. So that class was allowed to remain at the college for another year to finish out their degree. At that time, the Franciscan Academy would also shutter and be converted into a preschool and daycare.
So this was, for the younger children here. 2-year-olds.
In 2005, with the canonization of Mother Marianne Cope, it was hoped that the news would revitalize St. Anthony's, which was primarily now home to elderly sisters.
Aloha from Syracuse. 150 years ago, Marianne Cope embraced a life of poverty, chastity, and obedience, the life of a St. Francis sister. Now, very few of us can imagine convent life, let alone in the 19th century. Only on KITV will you go behind the walls of Mother Marianne's convent.
I feel so privileged to be able to walk in the footprints where she was, where she has been. Religious life is about the gospel, living the gospel. We work, we pray, we give, we do service. What you need is what you receive.
Morning prayer is the first common gathering of the sisters. So every day, we're being reminded of our Franciscan heritage.
So, too, they are reminded of Mother Marianne's journey to Hawaii at her service on Oahu, Maui, and Kalaupapa. Here at St. Anthony's, her remains rest in a reliquary, flanked by kahili, each feather a prayer.
It's just a great blessing for the diocese. I'm sure that it was hard for the people in Hawaii. We hope that her burial place will be a shrine.
Much has changed since Marianne's day. Sisters are no longer required to wear the habit, and they are allowed to use their birth names. Modest jewelry is now allowed, as are trips to the salon to style, perm, or color their hair.
Now you notice I don't call them nuns. Traditionally, nuns were cloistered. Sisters ventured out of the convent to serve in the community. Marianne Cope was a sister.
The most common misconception? That the church pays them a salary. Though the average age is 80, most still work in hospitals and schools, pulling their paychecks to make ends meet.
In the past, there were hundreds of sisters coming to input financially, but now there are fewer of us young sisters and greater numbers of senior sisters.
Once there were 200 in this convent, now about 40. But the sisters hope Mother Marianne's big promotion will lead more women to the spiritual life.
In 2012, a new convent would be built outside of Syracuse, while the Marianne Cope Museum and Shrine remained active here until 2013. 2 years later, the entire property was purchased and announced to be renovated into apartments by the owner of nearby Destiny USA Mall. But over the years, no work began, and the buildings were left abandoned and slowly falling victim to scrappers and vandals, such as this revisit footage from several years ago after our initial visit.
Big bathroom. So yeah, this is like a nursing home section. It got heavily scrapped. Oh, for the sisters. So when they were too old to be taken care of themselves, this is where they were put here. It's some sort of like a hydro. Oh, here's a sign. Whirlpool instructions. So it's to clean them probably like in healthy away. Yeah, here's like a bunch of chemicals that would come up in it. Maybe like a self-bather. Yeah, so this was the nun bakery.
In January 2025, it was announced that a new developer had finally gotten approval to begin work on converting the college into low-income senior apartments. But just 3 months later, a suspicious fire would break out in the mother house that took a full 24 hours to combat.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. The Syracuse Fire Department telling us the massive 4-alarm fire at the historic Maria Regina campus has finally been put out. Some crews still on scene tonight, more than 24 hours after the fire began raging in the old building. This drone video from last night giving us a new perspective of what firefighters had to face last night. From high above, you can see just how intense the fire was and all the manpower needed to try and get a handle on things. And this is what it looked like around 7 this evening. Firefighters still there, clearing up the scene.
As the smoke cleared, the city announced the entire property was approved for an emergency demolition. While the nearly 130-year-old building is now reduced to rubble, the Sisters of St. Francis are still active, having combined with several other offshoots of the original Philadelphia branch to form the Sisters of St. Francis of the Newman Communities. The St. Marianne Cope Shrine and Museum also lives on in its new home inside St. Joseph Hospital in Syracuse, preserving the legacy and history of these sisters' dedication to helping others.